So we have one more button, Dale.
In a way, this sort of, once we were on to buttons, this sort of presented itself because it is the most high-stakes button
Ever.
Yeah.
Mr. President, we have a crisis situation at one of our missile centers, sir.
A thermonuclear button.
You mean to tell me a renegade general's got his finger on the button of a Titan missile?
Is it a button? I mean,
Well, that's what we wanted to be
depicted in
wondered.
Hollywood as a big red button.
Big red
Exactly.
button.
So we just figured, okay, let's go find the button that destroys the world.
So we brought in a friend of mine, Alex Wellerstein. He's a historian of all things nuclear weapon related.
Yeah.
He sat down and the first thing he told us was that
There's no button.
No button.
No. There has never been a single button.
Well, wait a second. When you get to 1952, 1953, in ordinary parlance, people say, well, the president has his finger on the button. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any idea where that phrase comes from? The button?
It's older. It's much older than the bomb.
Oh.
Really?
So 1910s is when all of this stuff, H.G. Wells is sort of famous, but there's all this literature about the crazy scientist who invents a new form of gas that can kill everybody. And he has a button.
And is it a red button?
I don't know if they say red, but it's definitely a button.
And according to Alex, by the time we developed nuclear weapons,
This existing imagery about the scientist can blow up the world using their button transfers to the president can blow up the world using his button.
And then Alex told us something that really surprised us. He said when the U.S. government dropped those first bombs on Japan,
So the bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima, they didn't take off with the bomb armed. They took off with the bomb missing a piece.
and the missing piece is
It's a chunk of uranium.
Oh.
And then one of the scientists, who was also a military guy, crawled into the back of this plane while it was en route, opened up the bomb, put the missing piece back into it, and then closed it back up again and turned on all the electrical switches that said, if we drop you out of a plane, you're going to have to detonate.
it will explode when it's a certain number of feet off the ground, so pressure will trigger it. And as for finger on the button, the finger, which belonged to Harry Truman, President of the United States, was 11 time zones removed and, frankly, unaware of the act.
Truman, he didn't issue an order himself. He sort of approved an order that was already being issued from the Secretary of War to the commanders out there. And it said, you have 2 of these special bombs. That's what they called them, special bombs. And here are your 4 targets you can drop them on. You could drop them on Hiroshima, you could drop them on Nagasaki, you can drop them on Kokura, and you could drop them on Niigata.
basically says any day after August 3rd.
Feel free to drop the bomb.
What? He said, here's a couple of different options. Choose?
Choose.
here's some bombs, here's some cities, here's
some days.
Go for it.
No way.
Other than that, the only considerations are operational. So the bombing order says you have to be able to see the target before you drop it. And that's it.
Wow.
One of the interesting things that I found out later, there was a town called Kokura, and that was the Plan B town, or city rather, for Hiroshima. But the weather that day happened to be good in Hiroshima, so they dropped it there. And then the next time, that was actually the Plan A city for Nagasaki, but the weather was bad there, and so then they bombed Nagasaki. But so this city of Kokura got spared twice. Like it was so close.
And so Truman doesn't even know. He gets told, oh, by the way, we dropped the bomb yesterday.
You mean when the bomb dropped on Hiroshima?
He had no idea.
He didn't know it would
Did
be
not know.
Hiroshima?
He didn't
Did
know.
not know it was Hiroshima. Didn't know what day.
The second bomb, he seems to have been caught off guard, and he actually issues, this is his only way of getting involved, he issues an order which says, stop dropping atomic bombs until I tell you to.
I feel like if you're a president and you're going to do that to that many people, I feel like you should be directly responsible. It should not be an arbitrary decision. Like, I kind of want a button in this case.
No. You wouldn't actually want there to be a button, right? You could bump a button, right? A button is too easy, right? You don't want it to be easy enough that you set your coffee down on the Oval Office table and, kill the world, right? Like, obviously nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do that.
And I think it's, I have to admit, when you first were pitching the button thing, I was thinking, where are they going to go with this? How is this going to work? And the more I was thinking about it, it's sort of a deep concept, right? It's about the ease in which you could actually destroy all of civilization because of the technology, which you could not do in the 19th century. You could not do with Genghis Khan. He could do a lot of damage, but he could not kill, all the people in the world. The button is the symbol of how easy that is.
And the reason this becomes kind of crucial is we now are moving through the 50s into the 60s.
For the first time, the cities of the United States and the people who live in them are vulnerable.
In the early 60s, the United States is in a face-to-face with Khrushchev over those Cuban missiles.
That Soviet military units are in a state of combat readiness.
And the world gets really, really, really close to annihilation.
The way that it works at this time is that the president has an assistant, a military guy, who has all the nuclear codes in a briefcase, handcuffed
to the assistant. And the assistant, if the president is in the bathroom, the assistant is outside the door in the corridor. If this president is at
all
a
times?
football game, at all times.
And so weirdly, the suitcase is called the football, and I believe the page with the nuclear launch codes on it is called the biscuit.
Why?
I have no idea why.
I have no idea where it got the name.
So it's the 60s, and things between the U.S. and the Soviet Union are very tense. And there are generals on the Joint Chiefs, Curtis LeMay among them, who
they call
are
bombs away LeMay.
Yeah, who are not at all troubled by the possibility that this would be a weapon they would use, and they advocate it very specifically in very specific cases.
So even though there are no buttons and there are all these codes, people are still worried at the time about just how easy it would be for the president to launch a nuclear attack.
Right. So
And one guy in particular.
this guy, Roger Fisher, is this sort of academic policy guy.
He's a Harvard Law School professor. He advised secretaries of state on the Iran hostage crisis, on the Israel-Egypt peace accord. He definitely had the ear of the Pentagon.
And he was troubled by this idea that, the president could very dispassionately start nuclear war.
And so he proposed this idea.
I'll jump in. The notion comes from his long interest in reducing the risk of war.
Roger Fisher passed away, but we were able to talk to his two sons.
I'm Elliot Fisher. I'm a professor at Dartmouth.
And I'm Peter Fisher. I'm a senior fellow at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth.
So his solution to this,
and by the way, this would be just in the case of a U.S. surprise attack. It's what's called a first strike.
Was to, instead of having all the codes be just in a suitcase.
His idea was to get a volunteer who'd have the codes put under their heart.
You embed the codes in some sort of capsule in the guy's heart.
Surgically, and he'd carry around a briefcase with a knife in it.
A butcher knife.
And if the president ever felt the urge to fire off the missiles,
he has to go to the guy and say, well, now's time. Give me the knife.
And then he would have to take the knife and drive it into the guy's chest.
The president has to chop out this code from this guy's heart.
The president would have to kill someone and pull the code out of their body. He would have to first kill one person in order to get at the codes that would let him kill millions of people.
He has to look at someone and realize what death is, Fisher writes, what an innocent death is. Blood on the White House carpet. It's reality brought home. Fisher then says that he suggested this to friends in the Pentagon, and their reply was, my God, that's terrible. Having to kill someone would distort the president's judgment. He might never push the button.
That's the whole point.
Yes. The strongest objection is it might work.
And even now, I think, gosh, not a crazy idea at all to have the president be, if they're going to pull the trigger and blow the world up, kill one person. Because you're just about to kill tens of millions, mostly innocent people.
Huh. And the button is just too easy, so we'll just make it harder.
The button's too easy? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the butcher knife is the ultimate anti-button.